the least detail. My father too was the same, only his silvery white beard had become a little more silvery, his broad white wrinkled forehead was now a little more wrinkled. This was probably because of his cares. And my mother was the same as when I saw her last, only her ruddy cheeks were now slightly sallow, and I imagined she had grown smaller, shorter and thinner. Perhaps I only imagined this because she was now slightly bent, and her eyes were slightly inflamed and had little puffy bags under them, as if they were swollen. Was it from weeping, perhaps? For what reason had my mother been weeping? For whom? Was it for me, her only son, who had acted in opposition to his father's wishes? Was it because I would not go the same road as my father, but took my own road, and went off to study, and did not come home for such a long time? Or did my mother weep for Bussy, because she was getting married on the Sabbath after the Festival of Weeks? Ah, Bussy! She was not changed by so much as a hair. She was not different in the least detail. She had only grown up and also grown more beautiful than she had been, more lovely. She had grown up exactly as she had promised to grow, tall and slender and ripe and full of grace. Her eyes were the same blue Song of Song eyes, but more thoughtful than in the olden times. They were more thoughtful and more dreamy, more careworn and more beautiful Song of Song eyes than ever. And the smile on her lips was friendly, loving, homely and affectionate. She was quiet as a dove, quiet as a virgin. When I looked at the Bussy of today, I was reminded of the Bussy of the past. I recalled to mind Bussy in her new little holiday frock, which my mother had made for her at that time for the Passover. I remembered the new little shoes which my father had brought for her at that time for the Passover. And when I remembered the Bussy of the past, there came back to me without an effort on my part all over again, phrase by phrase, chapter by chapter, the long-forgotten Song of Songs. Thou hast dove's eyes within thy locks. Thy hair is a flock of goats that appear from Mount Gilead. Thy teeth are like a flock of sheep that are even shorn, which come up from the washing, whereof every one bears twins, and none is barren among them. Thy lips are like a thread of scarlet, and thy speech is comely. Thy temples are like a piece of pomegranate within thy locks. I look at Bussy, and once again everything is as in the Song of Songs, just as it was in the past, once upon a time, years before. Bussy, am I to congratulate you? She does not hear me. But why does she lower her eyes? And why have her cheeks turned scarlet? No, I must bid her joy, I must. I congratulate you, Bussy. May you live in happiness, she replies. And that is all. I could ask her nothing, and to talk with her? There was nowhere where I might do that. My father would not let me talk with her, my mother hindered me, our relatives prevented it, the rest of the family, the friends, neighbours and acquaintances who flocked into the house to welcome me, one coming and one going, they would not let me talk Bussy either. They all stood around me, they all examined me as if I were a bear or a curious creature from another world. Everybody wanted to see and hear me, to know how I was getting on and what I was doing. They had not seen me for such a long time. Tell us something new. What have you seen? What have you heard? And I told them the news, all that I had seen and all that I had heard. At the same time I was looking at Bussy. I was searching for her eyes, and I met her eyes, her big, deep, careworn, thoughtful, beautiful, blue, Song of Song eyes. But her eyes were dumb, and she herself was dumb. Her eyes told me nothing, nothing at all, and there arose to my memory the words I had learned in the past, the song of songs, sentence by sentence. A garden enclosed is my sister, my spouse, a spring shut up, a fountain sealed. And a storm arose within my brain, and a fire began to burn within my heart. This terrible fire did not rage against anybody, only against myself and against my dreams of the past, the foolish, boyish, golden dreams for the sake of which I had left my father and my mother. Because of those dreams I had forgotten Bassi. Because of them I had sacrificed a great, great part of my life, and because of them and through them I had lost my happiness, lost it forever. Lost it forever? No, it cannot be, it cannot be! Have I not come back? Have I not returned in good time? If only I could manage to talk to Bassi, all alone with her, if only I could get to say a few words to her. And how could I speak with her, all alone, the few words I longed to speak, when everybody was present, when the people were all crowding around me? They were all examining me as if I were a bear or a curious creature from another world. Everybody wanted to see and to hear me, to know how I was getting on and what I was doing. They had not seen me for such a long time. More intently than anyone else was my father listening to me. He had a holy book open in front of him, as always. His broad forehead was wrinkled up, as always. He was looking at me from over his silver spectacles, and was stroking the silver strands of his silvery white beard, as always. And I imagined that he was looking at me with other eyes than he used to look. No, it was not the same look as always. He was reproaching me. I felt that my father was offended with me. I had acted contrary to his wishes. I had refused to go his road, and had taken a road of my own choosing. My mother too was standing close behind me. She came out of the kitchen. She left all her work, the preparations for the Passover, and she was listening to me, with tears in her eyes. Though her face was still smiling, she wiped her eyes in secret with the corners of her apron. She was listening to me attentively. She was staring right into my mouth, and she was swallowing, yes, swallowing every word that I said. And Bassi also stood over against me. Her hands were folded on her bosom, and she was listening to me just as the others were. Along with them she was staring right into my mouth. I looked at Bassi. I tried to read what was in her eyes, but I could read nothing there, nothing at all, nothing at all. "Tell me, why have you grown silent?" my father asked me. "Leave him alone. Did you ever see the like?" put in my mother hastily. "The child is tired, the child is hungry, and he goes on saying to him, 'Tell, tell, tell, and tell.'" The people began to go away by degrees, and we found ourselves alone, my father and my mother, Bassi and I. My mother went off to the kitchen. In a few minutes she came back, carrying in her hand a beautiful Passover plate, a plate I knew well. It was surrounded by a design of big green fig leaves. "Perhaps you would like something to eat, Shimak? It is a long time to wait until the Seder." That is what my mother said to me, and with so much affection, so much loyalty, and so much passionate devotion. And Bassi got up, and with silent footfalls brought me a knife and a fork, the well-known Passover knife and fork. Everything was familiar to me, nothing was changed, nor different by a hair. It was the same plate with the big green fig leaves, the same knife and fork with the white bone handles. The same delicious odour of melted goose fat came in to me from the kitchen, and the